Thanks so much for purchasing this effect. I think you're really going to love performing this. It is not an exaggeration to say that this could change the way that you look at doing impromptu mentalism, particularly phone-based mentalism. I came up with the original effect, skip track, years ago and have been performing it ever since. I showed it to a few friends. Those friends worked on it, came up with different ideas, and then Antonio figured out a way of taking the principle that skip track works on, adapting it a little bit, and then it just blew wide open the things that you can achieve with this effect, to the point where now this is just my go-to effect. It's probably one of the only things that I regularly perform right now. I just do this all the time, and the reactions and impact that it has, it's great.
Yeah, honestly, we can't wait to share this with you. I think one of the main reasons that we want to get this out there and we want to share it with more magicians is just what Stephen just said, which is we perform it all the time. It's genuinely a go-to. I know that is such a repeated phrase in magic, but genuinely, if anyone asks me to show them anything at any place, any time, this is always what I go to, and it always gets such strong reactions. I mean, actually, I was just in America the other week, and we had a massive gathering of friends, and in the middle of it, one of my friends came up and was just like, "Oh, you've got to show." He stood up and was like, "Guys, everyone, stop what you're doing. Jacob here, he owns a magic company, and he's going to show you something with Spotify that's going to blow your mind." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" But like, I mean, that's literally like, but yeah, of course, I was ready to go. I was ready to perform it. It's super easy. And it got a great reaction. So yeah, we can't wait to share the method with you, and we hope that you, like us, will start performing this day in and day out and getting the great reactions that we have.
First thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over the principle that is used for the vast majority of effects that you're going to do. We're going to give you this quick rundown. You'll know the bare bones of the method. You'll immediately, I imagine, have ideas about how you can use this, and then we're going to get into more specifics, subtleties, justifications, things to avoid, troubleshooting, all that lovely stuff. So for this example, I'm just going to start my screen recording. We're going to use the Notes app. So the main thing that we're exploiting here to get the information is that when you have something on your screen, let's say I'm going to write Benji is cool on the Notes app here. If I swipe up to minimize, when I swipe up again, there's a little screenshot that's been taken by the operating system that shows what the last thing was shown when they were in the app. We're going to be using that screenshot to get the peak. Now, you have to do something to actually get to this screen without it deleting the information, which we'll explain now. So the spectator creates a new note, they write out what they want to write, and then you go swipe up to minimize the app. Then, as an afterthought, or it depends on the presentation, you go, actually go back on the Note app for me. They click back on it and delete what you've put. So you can have them delete the note itself. In this case, just for speed, I'm just going to delete the physical text that's there. Often you would maybe get them to write something else so that the shake to undo thing is less likely or whatever. Or they can go in and delete the note and then delete the note from the recently deleted. Doesn't really matter. Point is you're now back to essentially a blank screen. They then hand you the phone. And at this point, if you're going to minimize out of the app and look at that preview, it's going to show you a blank screen because of the last thing that you saw.
It'll reset.
But this is the genius thing that Antonio discovered. If you rotate the phone and it goes to horizontal mode, and then swipe up to go out the screen, and then rotate back and swipe up, your preview screen that you had before is still there, and that is giving you the peak. That is essentially the entire method. So the whole trick is achieved by justifying them to go out of the Notes app or whatever it is, which is essentially a non-moment, going back into it, and then justifying you taking it and then rotating. We have a bunch of cool ways that you can rotate the phone without the spectator really even perceiving its relevance. Essentially, it's the most minor compromise to get a lot of information. And not to get too carried away when we're on the basic overview, but you can peek everything that's on the screen, which allows you to get a ton of information. And depending on the effect, you can look at this for a long time. Oh, there's some really nice stuff.
Yeah, it's lovely.
So let's just go over that one more time real quick. Essentially, they go on the Notes app, they create a new note, they write whatever it is, they swipe up to minimize, they then go back on the Notes app, they delete the note, or they just delete the text, maybe they type something else. You then take that back from them, and then you go, okay, you've got this. You rotate for some reason, we'll get to justifications, you swipe up, and then you rotate back, you swipe up, and you get your little preview peek, and that is how you get the information. That's basically it. We're going to start going
And
through...
then, of course, you have the preview peek, but when you go back on it, now you see...
That is totally... It's totally deleted and gone forever. Yeah.
Hey, just a really quick editor's note. As you can see, I'm looking a little different to when I did on shoot day. I guess that's what many days of editing does to you. But yeah, just a quick editor's note. We've actually been sharing this effect with a bunch of other people. And magicians have come to us with a few handlings that we weren't aware of. And when I say sharing, I mean obviously, you know, talking within the community, sharing it with some close friends and those that we trust. And one thing that came out that we thought was crucial that we include in this recording that we didn't do on the actual day was the fact that you can get the peak by turning off the phone. So what do I mean by that? Essentially, when you go to swipe up on the screen, how we do for in all of the rest of this tutorial, you'll see when we swipe up on the screen, that's what's going to save the peak. In that same place that you would do that, you can actually turn off the phone. By that, I mean, you know, lock the phone. So say, for instance, they've written tree, then you would lock the phone, then have them go back on, delete it, everything, then turn the phone horizontal, do the same procedure, and that would give you the peak. Something that's nice about this is it avoids a lot of issues you can get sometimes with the notes if people swipe up or they are not very good at following instructions. Obviously, turning off the phone is a very easy instruction to follow and avoids a lot of the pitfalls that you can run into. So hopefully that makes sense. We just wanted to add that because we thought it was a really important part of the tutorial that we didn't want you to miss, which is anytime you hear us saying, and now they swipe up, they can also lock the phone, turn off the phone. That will have the exact same effect as it would if they were swiping up. And the reason for that is because when you swipe up, you're taking a snapshot. When you swipe up, the phone is saving that snapshot. And in the same way that it saves that snapshot, sorry, a bit of a tongue twister, when you swipe up, it also saves a snapshot when you turn off the phone. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions on this, obviously reach out to us, but I just wanted to add this quick editor's note here. And yeah, let's get back to the rest of the tutorial.
So that's basically it. Now we'll go through actually how you perform this, because your first thought is probably, but why would you just randomly rotate your phone? We've got a bunch of different ways that is hidden. So we'll get now to individual effects. We've gone over the basic method. Now we're going to start with effects that you can do using the Notes app. And we're going to talk about the justification for various moments so that it is a nice, smooth, seamless experience. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is justifying the minimizing of the app. Now this might be a weird one to start with because the justification is basically you don't need one. It is a totally non-moment, and this is one of those things that I think magicians can run without being chased. It is a non-moment. So just to give you an example of how this would go, let's say you've got to the point where you've loaded up the Notes app, the spectator is loaded up, you've not touched their phone. Benji, could you just write down the name of any friend you have?
Got it, yep.
And maybe write their age, whatever you like.
Perfect.
You done it? Could you minimize the app for me so it's gone?
It's gone.
And actually, yeah, I'll use your phone for this if you don't mind. Could you go back on the app and actually delete what you've written?
Yeah,
Or delete the note?
it's gone.
Yeah?
Yep.
Great. And so I can take the phone?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'll make a new note. And now, essentially, that's what I wanted to show initially, is that it's a non-moment when I go minimize the actual app. The way that I like to perform this is as if I've had an afterthought that actually I'll use the spectator's phone, and then I go, well, actually, could you go back on the thing and delete what you've put? This basically is just going to come down to mentalism 101, whatever justification for writing the thing down. You probably know more about this than I do as magician, mentalist people. But in essence, some reason that they write it down. They could be showing a friend or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But I think it's a bit of a non-moment, and then just minimizing is as simple as minimize it. Actually, could you go back on it? I have never had people tell me that that's a weird moment. I've never had anyone recap the effect and mention the fact that they minimized and then came back to the thing, especially when we were starting messing around with all this in the different versions. We wanted to know how a spectator would describe what they'd seen. Nobody thinks about the minimizing thing. It is a non-moment. So that's the first little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think minimizing non-moment, I think the afterthought thing is totally the way to go. Otherwise, if you really are technically thinking about it as a magician, you might be thinking, well, if they're in their notes and I'm going to go back into their notes, why am I asking them to minimize it? I can see why someone would ask that question as a magician. But I think if you're just in the flow of performing and it's like, well, you don't quite know exactly what you're going to do. You're like, okay, you've got some information. Yeah, get rid of it so I can't see it. So if you turn the phone around, I can't see it right now. Correct? Yeah, okay, great. How do I do it? I've got a great idea. Go back on the notes, but delete it so I can't see it. You know, the afterthought, it works perfectly. And as Stephen said, also justification for writing in the notes. That's just almost beyond the scope of this. It's just if you're a mentalist and you ever have someone, if you do any mentalism ever and you ever have someone write something down, that's something you have to think about as like, what's the justification for writing it down? It's not really what we're trying to cover today. Simple one though, like Stephen said, is if you're doing it for someone, there's multiple people and you say, hey, I want you to think of a name, but don't say it out loud because I want all of you to know, but I don't want to hear it. So maybe you can write it in your notes, show it to each other, and then, you know, exit so I can't see it.
Yeah. The other thing that's worth bearing in mind too, and maybe getting ahead of myself on the subtleties, you don't have to go and retrieve this information straight away. They can minimize the thing, lock your phone, talk a little bit. Actually, can I use your phone? Is that okay? And go back into it. This is one of those examples where you might need a reason why you're having someone write something down. But with a lot of the effects, you do not need a reason because the very process of the effect would require them to use a phone, like the Google Maps trick, for example.
Although it is a trip.
It is a trip. It's a trip, both in many ways.
In many ways.
Okay, we're going to now talk about just the different ways that you can present this effect in essence.
Okay, cool. Let's start talking about presentational angles. Let's start with this fun one. This is a drawing the face, guessing the name. So the way we do this, let's skim through the first part. It's exactly what we just went over. Stephen writes a name.
Yep.
And then I tell him, you know, minimize the app. And I pretend to be thinking, oh, what are we going to do? Maybe I'm going to try and guess the name. Actually, I've had a better idea. This will be more fun. Let's try this. Can you go back on the note?
Yeah.
Could you just delete the text, delete the note, just so I can't see it?
I'm going to delete the note.
Delete the note, great.
And I'm going to go back and delete it from recently deleted. No?
Oh, sure, actually, yeah. I didn't know if there was going to be anything in there, but we're good.
I don't think so.
No, I don't
if things get blurred in this, then you'll know why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so you would now press on the drawing feature.
Yeah.
And then at this point, I would actually say, hey, are you a good artist? You consider yourself a good
Terrible.
artist? So, okay, I'll help you out. I'll hold the phone like a canvas, and if you could just draw, you know, the face of this person.
Draw the
best you
person.
can.
Alrighty.
The person or the face or whatever. You just kind of work with this canvas.
This is so good. It's perfect. There you go.
Great. And now, obviously, we have this great drawing, and then I will turn the phone around and I'm studying this drawing, and I have plenty of time because I'm just thinking about it. As I do that, I can swipe up horizontally, thinking here, and then I have to turn the phone back vertically to swipe up, get the peak of the name. There I see Max. But then as I enter back in, I'm back into the drawing. And actually it's quite nice because the note will also reorient. So it's not awkward when you turn it back vertical. And I say, just something about this shouts Max to me, and you guess the name.
Yeah. This is a really nice example of the justification because it makes sense why somebody would rotate the phone to draw, even if that's not the way that you might draw an image. You don't think about it as a spectator as being weird because the action is justified. Oh, okay, we're drawing, and he's decided to put it horizontal.
Yeah.
That just makes perfect sense.
It makes sense.
And it really is quite a fast moment too when you're looking at it like this. You're having a look. You go, okay, yeah, this is quite interesting. There's sort of some nice sort of details there that I like. Yeah, I think that, and then you've got it. Even then, I took my time for way more than I needed to, but you can just get in and out really, really quick. So yeah, that's one of the justifications. That gives you the first method of rotating, and it's a really fun presentation too.
And I was just thinking, with this, you could, if you wanted a reason for bringing it back vertical, say, oh, I'm gonna, and then you write the name below it, and that's why you're.
Yeah, exactly. You can do whatever reveal that you like. Right. There's basically an infinite amount of ways that you can approach this.
Yes. So there you are. Okay, let's talk about this one. I love this one. This one was the first one that Antonio showed me, and then I've done it myself, and it's really fun, and it's also a bit of a challenge. You'll see why in a moment, but it's like a fun kind of challenge, and it will always kind of go a little bit differently, which I think makes it really unique and really fun to perform. So it will start a very similar way, create a new note. Stephen will write down a word.
Any word.
Any word. I mean, it might be helpful at this point to kind of point them toward it being like an object. So maybe try and picture it, visualize it.
I've done it, and I've accidentally made it a bullet point, but that's fine.
No worries. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing. Stephen will minimize the app.
Yeah.
Great. And then we'll have this afterthought. Oh, actually, can you go back?
Yeah.
And do the same thing as before. Delete the note.
I'm just going to delete the text in this case.
Yeah, delete the text. And then if you could hit the drawing feature.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this time, there's really, I guess, two ways of doing it. One, I can do the same way for the face. I can turn it and say, okay, can you draw some lines? Or I can have you do it vertically, I think.
I never really think it matters with this one or the other, to be honest, because you can turn it when you're studying
Yeah,
it.
and I think this one works really nicely for turning it when you study it. Like, for example, we'll just do it this way, okay? If you can just draw some lines, don't think about it too much.
Draw some lines.
Just kind of close your eyes, maybe just let your finger go where it wants. But yeah, don't think about it too much.
Okay.
Great. So we have some lines. And then as I take the phone back, it makes sense that I'm studying it. I go, I don't know, maybe from this angle it's more like this. That gives me a chance to turn it horizontally. I swipe out. But back from this angle, I think I see... it's interesting. I'll use a different color so that I can sort of differentiate. But I think what I'm noticing here, there's a lot of like downward angles. It's almost like, I don't know, there's something here. This is like your core thing, and then it's almost like there's something going into it. Maybe it's like, I don't know, like water filling up a bucket, maybe.
Yeah, nice. What's quite cool about that, by the way, is I didn't know where you were going with that. I thought you were going to link up the lines to spell out the word, which is another way of doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's how I normally look at it, but that's it's with the image. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So that's great then, and that works. And I think the justification for turning it horizontal is perfect. I don't know if it works quite as well with the face. That's why I do it the other way with the face. Because if someone's face is vertical in the beginning, and then you turn it horizontal, it's still okay. But I don't know if it makes, with an abstract drawing, it makes there's no weirdness to turning it and studying it from a different angle.
Yeah. The other thing too is there's different moments that you can use the information. So, or there's different moments that you can kind of get into it. So let's just say I'm going to just draw new lines because those lines are strange to me now. So let's say they've done this in a few lines. And I take back the phone and I go, okay, this is interesting how you've done this. I might modify your drawing a little bit. I won't ruin it, don't worry. When you did this, did you think about the lines in relation to the drawing? I know that's a weird question. No, you didn't. No. You just drew abstract lines, not thinking about that as a connected thought. No, okay. I think I'm going to go, I see something like this is half complete. I think maybe something like this, and this is maybe the starting point.
That's nice, yeah.
And then I go, actually, that's like a B and a U. Can you think about the object that you're... Oh, okay, hold on. And then I might do it like this or whatever.
That's
okay.
so nice, yeah.
It's just a non-moment. I take it back.
Yeah.
I look. It's one of those things that's weird to explain because I think over worrying about the justification is almost negative. A couple more things on this. There's 2 or 3 different ways that you can delete information from a Notes app, and how you do this is up to you. So the first thing, obviously, if I just write the word, I don't know why I wrote gosh, but that's what I wrote. If I write the word gosh,
it's a hard one to draw.
And then I delete it, if you shake, you can undo typing and get the word back. So most spectators don't really use that feature. To sort of eliminate that as a method, maybe overdoing it, and you're never going to be sat there and shaking, so it's never really a particularly plausible method. But if you did want to eliminate that, you'd have the spectator type out the thing, delete the thing, obviously you've done the swipe up, type something else, maybe delete that thing, and type something else. And then you can take the phone back and go, this is just to make sure that if we do the shake, and it does undo typing, it's not going to show me the last thing you did. Now, technically, if you keep shaking, you can just go back, but a spectator doesn't think about that, and as I say, you're not going to be sat there shaking the phone. So that's one way of eliminating the word, of them deleting it. And what's nice about this is it's quick. Okay, go back on there, delete it, and maybe type something else so that if we hit the undo button, it's not going to show up. That's about as far as you need to go. It's never a thing that I really think people come up with as a method that you could be undoing.
It's so hard to hide that, like you say.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something... Sometimes I'm cautious of even mentioning the undo feature because so many people aren't really aware that it exists. The other thing is having them delete the note. For them to delete the note, they have to go back. They have to, wherever the note was.
It's probably in notes. Was it this one?
That's the one. They have to go back on that, and then they swipe, and then they hit the trash button, and then they hit go back, and they go on recently deleted, and they hit delete. Now you can talk them through that process. When I'm performing this, if I'm doing a trick that has a more complicated process like that, it's about as complicated as it gets for spectator handling, I usually get my phone out, have an example note and go, just swipe and hit delete, and then go here, and then hit that and delete, so it's completely gone from the phone. Once again, you could even argue that that's running without being chased, but if it's a physical note, I don't like it being left on the phone in any way. I feel like it can ruin the trick a bit if they later find that in their deleted folder. So getting them to delete it, you're eliminating a possible method. I think it's kind of important to go over that.
Yeah.
Another way that you can use the Notes app is you can do a drawing effect where the spectator goes on drawing mode. You have them draw anything they like, so you can just draw something. The cool thing about this is the kind of trick which you can really tailor to the spectator that you're with. If I know that I'm talking to someone that's very artistic and they are literally an artist, I'll get them to go on the Notes app and draw something because it leans into a thing that they're interested in. If they're really big into music, then I'll get them to go on Spotify and we'll do that version of the trick. If they like movies, I'll get them to go and look at different movie posters. This is the kind of thing that I don't think you should box yourself in too much when doing this if you're doing it in a social situation. You should think about, what is my spectator interested in? And then do whatever a version of this effect that best suits the spectator, and it becomes more meaning for them. So if they've done that and they swipe out, that is an incredible drawing, and actually go back on it and delete it for me so that I can't see your amazing drawing despite having just seen it over your shoulder.
Done.
Great. Can I take the phone back and be on the
Let
notes?
me get it from the recently deleted as well.
Oh, very good. He's a smart one, this Benji.
Got it.
Great.
Wait.
And can you give me a new note?
New note. Yes.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to try and draw what you drew. In fact, did you do it? You didn't do it landscape, did you?
No, I think it was...
You did it portrait? It doesn't really matter. It's probably going to fit either way.
Yeah.
And now I've done it, and I've got my
Sneaky,
peak.
sneaky.
Doesn't really matter. Or I decide to draw it landscape. Who cares? It doesn't matter. The spectator never registers this as an important moment. I'm probably really overemphasizing that it doesn't matter, and that we shouldn't over-justify the rotation of the phone. But I really do want people to not panic about that moment. As we'll get into the troubleshooting before, we'll get into troubleshooting tips later, but there's things you can come into when the spectator has their phone on orientation lock or things like that. And when I go through these things, most of the time, I just do whatever I need to do without really saying much about it, and the moment is not deemed significant from the spectator, and it's forgotten, and you're fine. But yeah, drawing duplication, well, very, very simple. You get a peek of what they drew, take it in, and then just do your best to recreate it. Job done. Very, very powerful effect. So far, we've talked about different effects that you can do with the Notes app. And the only thing that I don't like about those effects is that it requires the spectator to delete a thing that existed on their phone. And some spectators maybe could go, well, that information existed. Maybe there's some weird route that you can go and find the info.
Maybe they watched where my thumbs went and they just know what I typed.
Yeah, that would be some pretty... Sometimes you get the weirdest things of the spectator. I performed this the other day, and I will just admit this thoroughly, that I did the photos version of this trick on somebody, and they just went, well, maybe everybody just picks a photo like that. And I said, you chose the photo off your camera roll. So better performers than I will probably avoid this kind of issue. But I love the effects with this principle where nothing is ever saved to the phone. And this Google Maps trick is such a great example of this. This can be done with any Maps-based app, I'm pretty sure. I don't think there's really any limits. You have the spectator go on their phone, zoom out, and instead of them actually typing in a place, which you can do, type in a location you like, great, now delete it from your history, fine. That has the drawbacks that the Notes stuff has. I just get them to go on Maps, and I say, I want you to just zoom into any place. It can be a country that you've been to. I usually ask them to go with an English-speaking country because sometimes if the place that they zoom into is a very different language name, I might struggle at actually even knowing how to tell them what they're thinking of. So I'll maybe go for an English-speaking country. So in this case, I'm just going to use the US, and I'll just go zoom in anywhere that you like, and just keep zooming in onto maybe a city, and if you want, you can zoom all the way into a shop or whatever. In my case, I've just zoomed into Park MGM, Las Vegas. And you get them to zoom in to the point where you say, maybe remember a street name around it or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And by doing that, you're just sort of stopping them zooming so far into a place, which I have had happen before, where all you've got is the name of the thing. And if that's like Starbucks, it's a bit lame. You go, ideally, zoom in so you can see like the street. Normally, as well, when I'm performing this effect, I'll tell them I'll kind of guide them a bit. I'll say, you can go for a coffee place if you want, but it's better to go for something quite specific as opposed to just Starbucks. Just go to any place. They can go to a city if they want. They don't need to go this precise. But in this case, they've gone to Park MGM, Las Vegas, and then it's the exact same thing. Swipe up to minimize. Actually, I want to use your Google Maps if that's okay. Can you go back and now just zoom all of the way out? And if you want, zoom into a different place to throw me off. Obviously, you can think of a bunch of different presentations where you go, now go to a different place. and then you can try and read based off the place that they picked. Well, it must be the opposite to this. You went for countryside, so you must be in a city, and you can do all that stuff if you like. I'm focusing mainly on method here. But you get them to just zoom out pretty far, so there's no way that you could gauge it. Then you take the phone back, and what I love about this is that the justification for the rotation is absolutely perfect. I zoom out all the way, and I go, rotate. Obviously, you could have gone for somewhere anywhere in the world. And now by doing this rotation, I'm showing them the whole world. Feels totally natural. I want you to think about this place. Is this a place that you've actually been to before, or is it somewhere that you just kind of picked at random? I don't care what he's saying. I don't care what he's thinking. I'm just getting my peek. And now I have it right here, Park MGM Las Vegas. And I might go, I'm going to have a little search around. Just keep looking at me and do all this miming. If I really want to take in this case, I can see Park MGM. I can see Primrose. I can see the Chef something, which I know they won't have thought of. I can see Jack Gallery, Aria Express. And sometimes from this, I might even go on Google Maps itself. And if I don't know where this is, I will literally search for it. In this case, I'll just go Park MGM. And I'll click on it. And I'll see, oh, this is the city it's in. And then I might go off it. And then I might go and delete it from the history. All in the sort of prospect of me talking and trying to look around and go, this is actually quite difficult. Do you know where? Let's start with the country. And then, once again, better mentalists than I, once you've got a very specific location information, you can tell them the continent, the country, the kind of region, maybe even what the weather would be like in that place right now. What, all these things until you go all the way to the thing and you go, you zoom in a lot, imagine that you're there again. I see there's like a few places around. I see that there's like this kind of a shop, or actually this is quite a place where it's like a tourist destination. There's so much you can extract. And I love that about this because you can go through multiple hits all the way down to, wait, you're thinking of a casino? Is this Park MGM Vegas? And then boom, you have it. There's a few different ways that you can actually do this reveal, and it depends on what you're really going for. If you want, you can try and line up the exact thing that they saw. Once again, this is just a case of you memorizing the framing and then going, I think you were about here, and you go and zoom in. In this case, you're realistically going to want to type the thing to find it. You don't want to be searching through the entire world to try and find the street. But then you can zoom in and show them, I think this is what you were seeing. I don't really personally like doing that because I don't want them to think that what I got was a visual. I want it to feel a bit more abstract. Think of the place. Think about, and you can, what's cool as well, once you've got the information, you can be all zoomed out, however, and then you can go, just have a look for me. Let me just, I think... And then you can start sort of just going off how it feels.
Yeah.
Can I have a look?
I like that a lot, actually.
And then you're sort of zooming in a bit. Yeah. This is really cool if it's places that you're aware of. So we've talked about doing this any location in the world, but you can just as easily do it any place in the city, or if you're in New York or London or somewhere which you might know pretty well where you live, and if the spectator also lives there, you can go, can you zoom in on like any tube stop? And then once you get it, you can go, okay, think about, do you know how to get to this place from where we are right now? And if you know London pretty well, you can maybe go and map that out in your head and be like, actually, I think you'd walk to this place, you'd get on the Piccadilly line, westbound, you go a few stops and you switch at this and you keep going, and then you would eventually go north, you'd stop at Waterloo. And then boom, hit. So really think about what information you already have and that you already are quite knowledgeable about, and then work backwards. There's no real reason why you need to go any location in the world versus any location in the city. It's all, I think, once you get to these huge numbers of options, it's all the same to the spectator. So if there's a place or a region that you're at and you know it really well, go with that, and then it's pretty powerful. And I love this because there is no history. There's nothing that they can... There's nothing that they can go and see. It's just one of those things that's really, really nice. You being able to search for the location and the street name is super useful if they do go for something like a Starbucks, because then you can get all that info, but you can delete that so that history's gone. And really, it doesn't even matter if you do search for it and then show, I think this is what you were thinking, and then you have it too. There's a bunch of different ways, but the location thing is just so nice because they zoom in, they swipe up, they go back on, they zoom out, there's no evidence. And no one in the world thinks that this information is being stored on the iPhone. Everybody intuitively knows that every single place you look on Google Maps isn't being stored in your phone history. So the idea of you being able to get to that when they typed nothing it's just a bulletproof method in my eyes. It works really, really well.
Yeah.
This is the calendar effect. It is one of my faves. This is another one I like to perform all the time because you get a really good bit of information and you get some extra information, and essentially it's just really nice. It's just really nice. I don't know what to tell you.
And it's very personal.
It's super personal. You get them to go on their calendar. Once again, like most of the effects that we're talking about, they could use Apple Calendar. They could use Google Calendar, whatever it wants. I've loaded up Apple Calendar here. You can get them to navigate it however they like and then choose any date in their calendar or think of an event in their life. Bear in mind, you might want to say, look, if you think of a wedding, that might be quite known. You can either scroll through and look at the things that you've done and find something kind of obscure, or you can think, yeah, I remember that specific day where I went to this place, whatever. Go anywhere you like on the calendar, click on an event, and just bring it up. And then, in this case, I clicked on the Magic Mastery Discord session of the 12th of May, 2022.
Nice.
They swipe up to minimize, as is before. They go back in. You ask them to go back, zoom out, maybe go back to present day on the calendar just so that you can't see what they've done. Once again, you take it back. And now, because you're on the calendar app, you can use it this way, or you can go and rotate. Obviously, you're going to rotate, and you can say, okay, we can go through. Is there a way of going? How do you go on the? Is there a month view? And I normally do this under the guise of just being a bit confused about how the calendar works, and that's when I turn and I get my peak. What's beautiful about this moment is you have the name of the event, you have the time that the event was, and you have the date of the event too. So once again, you can do anything you like, and you go, okay, I'm just going to scroll through your calendar and see if anything springs to mind. Sometimes things jump out at me, and so far, nothing is jumping out at me, which is pretty annoying. Oh gosh. Oh, actually, no. We'll try it this way. Can you remember what date this event was on? And you've had them memorize this information. Think about the date. It's the 12th of May, 2022. And think about the time this event was between 9 and 10 p.m. And this was like a virtual event, right? You weren't even there. Is this a Zoom call? Was this a Magic Mastery Discord? I swear I just picked this at random. And then you've got it. So you take your time, you memorize the date, the time, and the event itself. You have the spectator do that too. And then you can tell them. What's cool as well is sometimes if you just go remember what the event was, and if it's an obscure event, which is the best kind of thing when it's not a repeatable event, you can tell them what the event is, they react, and you go, do you know what time it is? What time the event was at? And they go, roughly. And then you can go, I think. And then you can tell them the specifics that they might not even know, that then they can go and look up. You could argue, does that reverse engineer the method slightly? Depends. If you're doing straight mind reading, they have to know the information for you to read the mind. I simply mention it because sometimes when doing this effect, you can end up knowing more information than the spectator, which just gives you a cool directions that you can go creatively.
Wait, a quick note actually. When you were like pretending to scroll, were you pretending to scroll? Or were you were like doing that thing where you were pretending to scroll for the calendar, but you were looking at the info?
Yeah.
I guess they'll see that on the screen recording that you weren't actually scrolling.
Yeah, I really like to go for the pretend to do things on the phone whilst I really take in the information, especially because not necessarily got a great memory. I just like to be like, let me take it in. And I quite like doing information dense effects with this because I think you've just got such a lovely opportunity to take a lot of time on the peak. But if you want, then you can just get it quickly and then move on. But I don't think it really matters because as well, what's nice about when you're doing this kind of thing, you can start by showing them stuff, going through and going, actually, I'm going to just I want you to see this. I think it might be this. And then you can even go and look up the event and show them. It basically can make perfect sense for them to not see the information. You're like, I don't want you to be able to give anything away. There's all sorts of justifications to make them not see the screen. And that's a nice thing to bear in mind actually as well. When you're performing this for groups, you don't want someone stood over your shoulder. This could be for any of the effects. You can just go, hold on, I'm going to go for something privately at first because I might change it. And at this point, people just, you've set that, you've established that, people will just be like, oh, okay, makes sense. And then, yeah, it's totally fine. Because you might want to be going, I think I have it for dramatic effect, and then you show. So my point being with saying all this is that you can not let the spectator see what you're doing on the phone in a way that doesn't feel like you're hiding it suspiciously, you're hiding it deliberately because you're doing something theatrical or what have you.
Yeah, I love this. A couple of notes I was thinking about, you can sort of say whether you agree with this, but I think you started this one by talking about how you could randomly scroll, just go to an event at random.
Yeah.
But I think also this could be a fun opportunity to say, okay, you probably have a few events on your calendar going back, maybe years, maybe events you haven't thought about in a while. You can take your time, go back through them. I want you to really focus on an event that means something to you, something where there's like, meaningful. And I think this is just nice for spectators, especially if it's a shared effect. And they're like, oh, do you guys remember this? Do you remember this? And suddenly people just love telling stories. People love events. People love remembering things. And this gives them a chance to do that. And so, the magic aside, whatever feeling you invoke through the magic, you're also going to be invoking this sense of nostalgia, hopefully positive memories. And that alone is going to create emotion in the audience on top of the mind reading that comes later.
Yeah, the presentation that I often use when I'm doing this is that I say something to the effect of, I find it personally, people go, hey Stephen, what are you up to this weekend? And I genuinely have to sit there and go, and I really struggle. For some reason, just remembering what's happened in the past, it all becomes a blur. So for me, my calendar app has become a bit of a diary. And sometimes I like to just scroll through and see the kind of things, because there'll be events that I've gone to that I literally would never think about in my entire life if I hadn't gone back and seen and then gone, oh yeah, I did that thing where I went to that weird event with the drinks company and they were giving out free orange juice and it was all really strange. So what I want you to do for me is I want you to have that experience. I want you to scroll back on your calendar app, maybe go years back if you like, and find an event, keep flipping through, and find an event that you think, oh my gosh, I nearly forgot about that. It's nearly gone from my brain. And then you can go and tap till you've selected it so you can see all of the details. Great. Minimize the thing. And the other thing that you can also do, if you want to continue in this theme, is you can go, actually go back on the thing for me. And just like how this memory would never have existed again for you if you hadn't gone back now, could you tap and hold and delete the event? So now it's gone. And in fact, go back and go back to present day. Can I take your phone off you? So not only if I took this now and I went on the calendar, rotate, whatever, and scrolled through, and we spent hours and hours, I wouldn't even be able to find that event. If we hadn't done this here today, you wouldn't even remember that event never happened. Now the only place that exists is in your memory, brought right back. Can you imagine what it was like when you were there? If you're good at cold reading, I'm not. If you're good at cold reading, you can imagine a whole host of stuff that you can do from this point. If the event is like bouncy castle party, then you're like, okay, you can start building a picture. But that's the presentation I like to do when doing this, because it is a feeling that I relate to, and it's a genuine thing that I like to use my calendar and be like, oh yeah, I did this thing.
Yeah. There's sort of two ways of doing it, right? There's one in which the ultimate revelation happens on the phone. For example, you have the phone and eventually you end up going back to that event and you're like, oh, it was this one, or maybe you create an event for the future, but you name it the same thing or whatever, but you do something on the phone versus you have the phone, you're kind of looking through, I don't know which one, you put the phone down and then you tell them the event. Do both of these feel like equally justified as effect, or does it make more sense in some ways to have the revelation happen on the phone as well, since that's the reason you took the phone, is so that you could kind of use it?
I think the only thing that you need in the moment for any of these tricks that we're talking about to make sense is a reason why you took the phone back and a reason why you rotated. And I think those reasons can be as basic as, actually, never mind. They don't have to be reasons that get followed through. They just have to be justifiable thoughts that you had as the performer in the moment. So even if you're just like, how on earth does this kind of, that is still a justification. It's you being confused about the view of this app. Job done, got the peak. So in answer to your question, I think there are better performers than me that are watching this tutorial right now that will have better ideas of exploiting the effects that are creating with these effects and how they want to do it. Which is another kind of nice reason about releasing this to the world, is I think that it's just going to get better in the hands of more competent performers than us. No offense to us, we're pretty cool. But I think it's going to be nice. I don't really have a strong opinion. For some people, it's going to make sense to get that reveal. For others, they're going to want to almost throw the phone away,
forget that it was,
and then it was like never in play, and then you do that. One more thing that is just off the top of my head as well, that these are nice things just to mention as we go, because I will forget them at other points, but you can do these tricks where you get this information if you're doing it with a friend, and then you move on. You don't even do the trick. You're like, I just can't quite get it. Don't tell me, I might come back to it. And then you could just forget it, move on, do a card trick, whatever. They never tell you the thing. They've never shown it to somebody else. In this case, you want it just to be them. And then you send them like a card that invites them to an event. I want to invite you to go back in time to 1997, come to me with ballroom dancing, blah, blah, blah. And then they can get the impact that way. We as magicians think about tricks and effects happening in the moment, whereas really we can stretch out time and mess around. And that's one of the cool fun things about social magic. You also can do this if you're doing like the notes app effects. You can have them write down a bunch of bits of information, and then you can tell them one of the bits, struggle with the rest, and say, it's pretty good. Don't tell me, we might come back to it. And then later you can do the reveals whenever you want. So yeah, lots of things that you can work with. Next effect is using the Photos app on the spectator's phone. Whenever I'm doing this, I always check up front, hey, can we try something with the photos on your phone? This is going to involve me looking through your photo section. Are you okay with me doing that? Because a lot of people will not be okay with you doing that. A lot of people
Understandably.
will have photos that they don't want the world to see. In essence, this one's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but there's just a couple tiny little points. They go on a photo. In this case, I'm going to pick this fantastic photo with me
Oh, I haven't seen this
in this monocle looking incredible. You get them to swipe up, go back on actually, and in this case, you can either get them to swipe through a bunch of different photos, or you can get them to zoom out on all of the photos that they have and zoom all the way out. You then take the phone back from them, and once again, you can either go on photos. I haven't looked at the photos on this camera, on this phone for ages, but here's me posing with a microwave I was pretty happy about. And you scroll through the photos until you get one that you would naturally turn and rotate.
Lovely.
That's when you stop, then rotate and go, can you think about what this image looks like? Then you swipe up, boom, you get your peak. And it's just a really nice justification because you just swipe through until you get something that forces you, doesn't force you, but encourages you to turn the phone landscape. And that to me is one of the cleanest justifications. If you do care about justification for the rotation, that one, in my opinion, is one of the best because, oh yeah, here's a landscape thing. And this applies to some of the other effects that you'll get to too. And that's pretty much it. One thing I would say, I think I mentioned this previously, but on the photo, you might want to take quite a bit of time to take in the image if it's an obscure image. If it's people, it's quite difficult to remember and describe multiple people in a photo and what they're wearing. But if they've just done like a selfie or of people, it's a little bit difficult. So you really have to take it in. I usually like them to go for something interesting. Find me an interesting photo because an interesting photo naturally has things that you can talk about, and it makes your reveal a little bit better. That's basically it. The other way of doing the rotation is you could just zoom out to see the entire photo grid and then rotate. But really, I feel like this one is pretty nice to be able to just scroll through until you get a landscape photo.
Yeah, and this one, I think I agree in terms of getting the details of the photo, but I think don't panic if you accidentally kind of rush the peak. What I noticed when I did this, the very first time I was like, okay, we had this idea and I wanted to try it out. I hadn't really thought about these things of like, take my time on the peak because maybe you won't know what's in the photo. And it was actually, it worked out surprisingly well because I don't naturally think I'm a great kind of, like some magicians, some mentalists, when they're performing, they're really good at making you think that they're like, oh, it's not clear, but I think there's like this and I think there's this. And I always feel like when I do that, I just feel a bit like I'm forcing it. But the funny thing that happened was because I rushed the peak, I was like, oh, I can't get that back. And I was swiping for the photo. I was like, I actually don't quite remember what this looks like. I just remember it was like vaguely circular and there was a color pink and maybe, I don't know, it was either like a this or this. And so I just described it how I was remembering it. But because I'd only seen it for a second, it actually did quite a good job of feeling like an authentic, fuzzy image, kind of, oh, I'm just picking up on this and this and this, and it ended up being I ended up getting a hit on it as well. But so it's not the end of the world, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, you might as well get the details.
The other way of performing this effect, and this is a nice one if you're a little bit concerned that going on the spectator's camera roll is a little bit invasive or they feel uncomfortable about it, is you go on Google and go on Google Images. And you basically want to pick a thing that is ideally related to the spectator's interest, but also will naturally come up with a lot of variety when you do the thing. So for example, celebrity works pretty well. If I type in celebrity and hit go to images, and this is the kind of thing you can also just help the spectator with if you want. Like at this point, it depends on how precious you want to be about never having touched the phone, but you get them to click on one, and then they can swipe through different people and then stop whenever they want. So in this case, what I don't like about celebrities is sometimes you will get the celebrity without seeing the name. If you're really on the ball with popular culture, you'll find this really easy. But for me, I sometimes will just struggle about which celebrity it is. I will stop on Donald Glover. So then it's the same kind of thing. They swipe up, actually go back on it for me, swipe through lots of times or just go back. I like to keep them on the celebrities for this. I don't like them to just dismiss the page because then I take the phone back and I go, okay, so you've got here Taylor Swift, you've got people that I know the name of. This guy's looking chiseled as.
Henry Cavill?
It's very, very chiseled. Oh, it is Henry Cavill. Yeah, it's very chiseled. So you're thinking of a celebrity. And once again, we've just done the peak. Actually, I'm quite glad that we just did that in real time because I got the info on this offbeat.
That was nice.
You just rotate the phone when you've got a celebrity that's in landscape. Often I find, by the way, it's going to be compilations of celebrities. So it'll be like this kind of thing, and then it makes sense to turn it. Even though turning it actually makes it smaller, but it doesn't matter because you're not turning it to achieve a result. You're turning it because you had a logical motivation to turn it in the moment. And then if it looks crap, it doesn't really matter because you're like, oh, okay. And you turn back and you go, but you know what the celebrity is? It's not just a random, and boom, you've got the peak. Celebrities work really well. Movie posters is also a good one that brings up lots of different categories. And what's nice about a movie poster is you get a lot of information. You get the name of the movie.
And they're often quite visually striking.
I've actually gone over to Bing, and it's here we go. Yeah, they're very visually striking. You got the Avengers, etc., Woods, Justice League, all these things. Your justification for rotating is not going to be quite as good here, but you can still do it. So let's say that they're on Follow Our Heart. They swipe up. You go back. Oh no, sorry, you don't go back yet. They go back on it. They swipe a few down like this. You take back the phone, and you go, okay, there's a few different movie posters here. And when you're thinking about it, you might get a detailed movie like this. Perhaps there's a lot going on. Oh. And then you remembered like the specific kind of bits like this. Or maybe you just went for one that was a more simple kind of minimalistic design. I don't really know, but I know that you're thinking of Follow Our Heart. And then, once again, however long I want to taking in this peak so I can give more information. If you're a movie buff,
you can sorry to interrupt, but you can pretend that you're
exactly.
swiping still. And
yes, if you're going to do that and take in a lot of information, you can just go, okay, just think about what your movie is, think about the colors in the movie, and you take it all in. Once again, this is perfect if you or your spectator, or ideally both of you, did I say both? Both of you.
I think you said it right. Yeah.
Oh, I said it right. Okay, I don't know. It's I don't know where I'm at. This is ideal if both of you are movie buffs, because then when you get your poster peak, you might know that poster off by heart. You got that in a fraction of a second, and then you start really vague and you go, think about just like the main color palette. It's kind of like orangish, right? It's like an orangey, and then you start painting it mentally and zoom in, and you just get like a lot of hits from the one piece of information. So basically it works with anything that you could go on Google Images for. Pick a category, mess around yourself to find different categories, but really, this is a great one to do on the fly because you can tailor it to literally any interest someone might have. You can go, actually, could you load up your Google, go on Google Images, type in a thing, tap on the first thing and scroll through, and Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle.
Bob is your uncle.
And a nice one of this, it's similar to Google Maps in that you never type anything in. Obviously, you type in the initial Google search, but that's not a secret. We all know what that category is. Past that point, people, I think, intuitively know that how could you backtrace it? Like, if they just keep swiping, they zoom out, they do this, or that's not actions that you can suddenly shake to undo. There's no undo button on how many times they've swiped.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it really, really cool.
Yeah. What's nice about this too is, unlike go to any website, swipe up, actually go back or delete the website. That will show up in history. Then you go through this whole kind of like, okay, let's delete the history process, which is a bit clunky. Whereas this is, it's like they're going through a billion pages. Therefore, there's a billion pages in the history, and you're...
True.
Not to mention that you only turn the phone away from them and get the peak for as long as you want. You can do it super brief, got it, boom, and we're back, and there's no way you could have even navigated through and seen the list of history.
Yeah,
here's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Don't use private browsing when you're doing this because it will naturally block the thing.
Yeah, I was also just thinking with the movie thing, you made a good point where if you're, say, for example, a movie buff, and that's why you do this one, and you remember a lot of posters, or you just spend a while on the peak. You could also go from, as far as justification, you could say, oh, actually, maybe I'll try this, and you turn it on horizontal, and you sort of draw, or maybe you say, oh, maybe I'll do, it'll work better this way, and you could like draw in the Notes app the poster they're thinking of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing that we haven't really covered is that you can navigate between different apps if you want to do something different. Yeah.
You could do the reveal in their Notes.
You can always just go, imagine this, and do the whole mime camera thing if you want as well. There's lots of different ways. But yeah, that concludes the images-based thing. This will also work on scrolling on a Facebook feed and finding an image. You can already see all the different possibilities. As long as you can rotate and it changes the orientation, you're golden.
Yeah, and Facebook's a good one, again, because it's still personal, but it's one step potentially less invasive than photos. So you've got the whole range there from Google Images, Facebook, their photos. Lots to do, lots you can do. Okay, so this one is one of my personal favorites. This basically allows you to do a book test with any book that you can find a PDF of online, or just using any sort of internet-based thing, whether it's Wikipedia, we talked about blogs, Substack. You could even do this with someone's email. It doesn't have to be...
or the Kindle app as well.
Or the Kindle app, Yeah.
Anything with a block of text.
Anything with a block of text, so you could also anything with a block of text, so you could also use the Notes app. Plenty of possibilities. Let's do this using Safari just to kind of switch things up. And let's say we go to the spectator and we say, hey, we want to try something. Can you think of a book, but preferably a book that you know you could find a PDF of it online? So potentially we'll go, I don't know, The Great Gatsby. That's always one of our go-tos. The Great Gatsby PDF. There you go. Open that. And then we say you can go to any page. Scroll as much as you want. Stop on a page. I'll stop on this page. And this is the nice thing about this one is a lot of the time with a book test, you'll go for the first word. This one, it's going to be a random word anywhere on this page. You can do this 2 ways. Well, probably more than 2, but we're going to talk about 2. One is you will just ask them, can you just look on this page and just tap any, or just hold your finger on any word. Maybe I'll do this one. Okay. And that's my selection process. Now, if you really want maybe a different justification for this, you might be wondering, well, why did they not just think of the word? Why do they have to touch it? Personally, I think it's not really a moment. I don't think you need, don't run if you're not being chased. I think you could just ask them to just put your finger down. Oh, you have a word, great. However, you could also tell them, all right, close your eyes and to randomly select a word. I just want you to put your finger anywhere on the screen. Oops, let me try that again. And I should have a word. So we can do it one of 2 ways. Once that word has been highlighted, the usual process, we will exit the app. And then afterthought, oh, go back, because right now the highlight's still there. But look, take it off, scroll to a different page. You can highlight a different word, or you can get rid of it, go to a different page, whatever you want. There's no way now that I should be able to know the word that you're thinking of. Now, all we have to do is our usual exit the app. And when we swipe up, we get our peak. There's the word.
A couple of things on this. So it's really nice having the spectator close their eyes and just go point and touch and hold for a second, and then look, did you highlight a word? So it's just a really good way of getting a random word, and it sort of justifies the process of having them randomly select a word and it be highlighted. Because you're not just going, think of a word you like, you're going, think of one at random. The other thing is that a lot of the time they're going to accidentally hit a word like of or something really lame. So you just say, if you've got a really small word, like the or something, maybe remember the word before it and the word after it as well, or a little phrase or a little sentence. And then you've guided them. When you get the peak, it's still going to be your point you're going to know. And if it's the, then you're going to remember each word on either side. And yeah, it works really well.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And that was the other thing. Is the justification for rotating is just that this is hard to see.
Right.
So you can just turn it around and you can zoom in a bit, and so you can actually read it.
Yeah.
And then you swipe out. And it's not even a moment that you need to justify. Don't say, oh, this is hard to read. I will just rotate it and zoom in. Just rotate, zoom in, and then pan out. It's just very, very natural.
Yeah, that's a great point. It legitimately is easier to read this way.
Yeah.
So
this also works on Kindle. Well, we've gone through this all, but it's exactly the same. Anything where they can tap and hold, it's a great way of doing it. You could just do the first word on the page if you like, but it works very well.
Yeah. So for example, Wikipedia, scroll, maybe we'll switch the article, we'll go to Michigan State Police, department overview, boom, that's the word. Exit, go back, change it. We could even change the article.
Yeah, changing the article when you're on Wikipedia is a really good shout because it's very easy to go through. Click a few more articles, so
and
I wouldn't know.
You end up somewhere that's, well, hopefully you'll end up somewhere that's completely
Federal
different.
Republic.
Federal Republic. Yeah, there's no sort of connection here. And you can go through the page. Maybe you can be studying something. This is quite nice here. We have a table. I'm trying to read the table.
Yeah, there you go. That's a really good point, actually, is a lot of the time you can just find something in the moment which makes you feel like it's a good point to do that.
And there we go. There's the word.
And with the Wikipedia thing as well, you can... when I'm doing this with Wikipedia, I like to take a little bit of time to look at the page because, okay, they've highlighted the word syntax or whatever it is. And I'm looking and I'm like, what the heck is this? If I look at the page a little bit, I can maybe gauge what the page is and the general topic they're talking about. And then I can go, do you know what topic this was that you were looking at, the kind of broad thing? And then you can do that and then go down. And you scroll, did you imagine you were scrolling and you stop, however you want to present it, but always be looking about how can I get more bang for my buck when I'm doing this effect? I can get the word, that I can get context clues around the use of the word. You might go, oh, this is syntax, and this was actually used as a nickname. This isn't like in the context of of math. It's like a nickname that someone had. Oh, they were in the mafia, whatever. You know, you can do a bunch of things. You could also search for a phrase to try and find the Wikipedia article. Depends on how much time you want to spend. Or you can go literally and look in the history, hit the back button until you find the article, which you can tell because of the word, and then it gives you all the info. Lots of different ways you can do it. We could go on about this forever, and we will. Because you have a lot of flexibility here.
Yeah. So really, it feels weird that this has been such a simple tutorial, because it feels like there's just so much that you can do with this. Literally any app, pretty much, where you have text that can be highlighted, you can use to have a word thought of and then reveal that word in a myriad of ways. And I guess we won't go over them all because we've just already gone over them in lots of different things. But really, there's not too much difference between what you can do with this and, you know, in the beginning we talked about the Notes app and how you could then have the spectator draw something, or you could draw something, or, you know, they draw some lines, you read into it. You can start combining these different methods, and you can have the word generated here and then reveal it in the notes, or you could reveal it with the camera again. There's just so much you can do. But really, it's very simple.
This is the effect that started it all. This is skip track, and it does work a little bit differently, but it's a really good trick if you want to perform more than one effect of this type. This is the one that is quite far removed method-wise from some of the others. So you can repeat just the regular tricks a few times or go from different ones, but this is a good one to throw in the mix. And I really, really like this. I will say that in general, I prefer to perform this when the person uses Spotify, which is the majority of the time in the UK and I believe in the US.
Yeah.
It's going to vary different countries. I tend to avoid this on the Apple Music app itself because it sometimes just doesn't quite work the same way. So usually it's if they have Spotify, and I normally will know that about the person I'm talking to, or I'll just say, do you have Spotify? So you get them to load up their Spotify and go on their liked songs or whatever it is. A big playlist is what they want. You get them to hit play on a song and then get that song so that it is the full screen thing. Make sure that you get them to have the volume turned all the way down. Then you have them just skip through again and again and again as many times as they want and stop on any song. In this case, I've stopped on She Plays Bass. Get them to take in the artwork or maybe the video that's playing or whatever it is, the name of the artist, the name of the song, and then you have them swipe up. Now, unlike the other versions, at this point, you get them to lock the phone. And then you say, that was weird, I did turn the volume down. Anyway, so they've minimized the phone and then they've minimized the song and they've locked the phone. So now the image of the song is stored in the same place that you're normally going to get it from. The way I normally perform this is I go, okay, so you're thinking of a song, and there's no way that I can know what song you're thinking of, right? In fact, even if I was to take the phone back from you, oh wait, sorry, hold on, could you just tap on the phone for a second? Is it still showing? Is it showing in the mini player? Oh yeah, it is, and it will be showing in the mini player. Oh, the screen recording has stopped. This is the one where the screen recording stops. Yeah. In the mini player, you then have them hit the skip track button a few times, and that changes what they can see. You then go, okay, so now if I was to take back the phone, I wouldn't be able to see, right? Yes, great. And then I normally will take it to try and unlock it. If it needs Face ID, I'll let them Face ID or do the passcode. It will then take you to the home screen because they have already minimized the app. And then, just like the others, I will hit the screen record just for the nice little moment. Just like the others, when you swipe up, you get an image of what they're seeing. You get the song, you get the band name. The artwork is also really useful. If I'm really struggling, then I might just go back on hit the skip track button backwards until I see the artwork. There's a bunch of different ways you can do the delivery of this. Jacob is going to talk about a few of them in a second, but you can just keep hitting back as they're watching, judge their body language or whatever kind of theme, and then tell them. If you know what the song is, then you have some flexibility of just singing it, humming it, whatever. But that is basically how skip track works. I think I covered the main method beats. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I think probably just there's a lot of like really nice presentation things that you can do with this. I think maybe one of the first ones would be just having them pick an album that's maybe like speaking to them right now. It's kind of nice if you're at a party or in a social setting, or I mean, whatever setting you're in. You can be like, how are you feeling today? Pick an album that maybe reflects something, maybe like a favorite album. There's just different ways that you can kind of motivate the multiple songs. One thing I have also noticed as well, that's happened to me quite a few times, is people will, I don't know why this has happened so many times, but they'll pick the first song in the album, and then I don't know why, but spectators just always think then that the method is just, it's the first song in the album, because you'll go back through and you'll go on the songs, And it's quite unfortunate. I've had it happen before where you land back and it's the first song on the album and you can't skip back anymore. And they're just like, oh, that's how it works. It's a weird thing, but because of that, I always tell people, don't pick the first song on the album. You might think that, that's probably the most obvious one. Make sure you pick one that's really deep in the album. Just a little presentation thing that I've had happen with people where they do, I don't know why, they just think that that's the method. The method is that it was just the first song. So that's just one thing. Yeah, like I said, so going back, having them pick an album maybe speaks to them, having them pick maybe a massive playlist. I think there's definitely some perks in that to go into their liked songs, especially because if they pick an album, obviously all the cover art on Spotify is going to usually be the same, which can make it a little more difficult and also just not as cool when you're going to reveal the song. So yeah, liked songs or kind of mixed playlists, those can also be nice in terms of revealing it. And then when it comes to just kind of handling the rest of it, I think turning the music up is really nice. I think it creates a lot of opportunities for kind of comedic moments when you're going back through liked songs. Like one time I had somebody pick like F the Police, and that was just really funny. People thought that was really funny. The album was really funny. The guy was also drunk and high. It just made for a really funny moment because it was just like, I don't know, it was just a perfect moment. Everyone thought it was hilarious. Everyone was laughing about it, and when that song turned on, you could see his face light up. It was just a really nice shared experience. So I think having the volume up and playing through the songs is just, it just adds a really nice element to it that's not just visual and not just you interacting with the spectator. It also just plays with the audio.
That's the cool thing too, is that when you are doing it, you literally can hit the back button until you find the song.
Exactly.
Normally I'll tell them to skip 5, 10, 15, 20, as many times as you like, so that I can't just skip back a few and guess.
Right.
So you want it to do it, but then you can just go back until you find it, and then you could skip through midway, like a third in or something, where you think the chorus will be, and then just jam that volume up and have that moment. The other thing that I hadn't really considered when doing this is that you can do it for people that don't have Spotify Premium. And I didn't even realize this because I thought, well, they can't skip around on the tracks, it just becomes pointless. But Benji actually came up with a really nice way of utilizing the fact that they don't have Spotify Premium. And we're going to switch things around, and you can explain that now.
So when you have Spotify free, the main drawback is you can only skip 6 times. Secondly, when you search for a song, it won't give you quite as direct of a result as when you have Spotify Premium. So for example, if I search for a song, Summer Sage, Summer Sage, that's the song I want. When I click on it, it gives me this, it's like a song and then it's got shuffled with. And usually when you have Spotify free, if you hit play, the sad news is I was testing this out before, and so I've used up my 6 skips already, but I will re-record a screen recording for this that will show you how it looks normally, but this is what I have currently on my screen. When you hit play, just imagine right there, it would start playing Summer Sage. However, it puts it in this little mix, and then if you keep skipping, it would just skip into this mix, this shuffled mix. And so I did that, I skipped 6 times and it got me to this one, and that's where I hit my limit. So what I would recommend doing if you're doing this is you have them hit play, that song should start playing. Once that song starts playing in this little tab here, you can have them go back, X that search, delete it from their history, go back to the home. Now, the song that they requested, the song that they searched for, is not visible on the home screen, but it will be visible down here where the song is kind of just the current song that's playing. So at this point you can exit the app, turn off the phone, I won't lock the screen this time just to keep the screen recording going, lock the screen, and then they would be able to do the skip track feature. However, they'd only be able to do it 6 times. That's the main drawback. However, when you reopen the app, obviously you would get your peak as you reopen. And then when you go on the song that's currently playing, even though in some ways the initial thought would be, well, I've only skipped 6 songs, surely you can just go back and figure out what it is. But actually, when you're on Spotify free, you can't skip back. So it's literally impossible for me to get back to whatever song this was. And because it dropped me into just like a shuffle mix based on that initial song, it's not even that it's the same album. I can't even say, this is a song from the same album, so I'm going to go back 6 in my head, and that's whatever your song was. Spectator just selected a random song, then they skipped 6 times into a completely randomly generated algorithmic shuffle of songs. Now I'm somewhere in there, I can't skip back, and there's no other indication of what the song is on the screen. And so I think telling the spectator the song at this point is still very impressive and probably not as good as if you were doing it with Spotify Premium, just in terms of the ease of handling, but I still think a very strong effect, and just kind of helps out in those situations where nobody happens to have Spotify Premium.
This one's going to be a super quick explanation, but you can get them to load up the calculator app and type in any number they like. 2-digit number, 4-digit number, whatever it is. And then what's nice about this is that they haven't like saved it. They've not done a sum that then puts it in the history. So they minimize, they go back in, you get them to delete the number, and then that is pretty much gone. I think you still probably have the shake problem, although it's not popping up here for me right now. Doesn't really matter. You're not going to be shaking the phone. You then take the calculator back from them, and the justification I have for rotating is I go, so you thought of a number, and you typed it in like that, and you didn't tell me if it was going to be a small number or it could have been like absolutely huge number, although that might be tricky for you to memorize. And in that action, I've rotated the phone to show the huge number because I typed so many numbers that it went off the screen and it feels quite natural. Then I turn back and I go, can you think about the number that you're thinking of? And then I get the peak. I'll keep on that peak as long as I need to for to get the peak. And I might go, okay, think about the first digit for me. Think about the second. I've got 1, 6, and then like, yeah, okay, hold on. And then I might just go beat by beat, miming typing out the number so that I can just take in the peak the entire time. Basically, you already know how to do this trick. We don't need to go into it in a lot of detail, but I just wanted to point out the nice little subtlety of you can keep typing so that then there's more numbers on the screen and then rotate to show the numbers.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
And obviously you mentioned that you don't have to do this with a sum, but if you wanted to, you could also do this with a sum if you said, oh, I want you to think of, think of a 6-digit number, you think of a 6-digit number, like multiplying them together, we have some, whatever. You could do a bunch of sums which eventually would make the number so big that you have to turn the phone horizontal, but if there's enough sums, they won't show up in the history either. There's many different ways of doing it. I know that some people are kind of attached to the actually doing maths with the calculator, so we're not saying you don't do that, we're just saying you don't have to. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For me, it's just like a nice, easy way of going, okay, load up the calculator app, type in your favorite 4-digit number or your PIN number or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then job good, job done.
Job done.
Extra thoughts, tidbits, troubleshooting, that kind of thing. So the first thing that you might come across relatively regularly is that someone might have their phone so that the orientation is locked. I had this happen to me just yesterday when I was performing this trick, and in essence, it's very, very easy. This is one of those things where people are going to overthink this again, but the way that I do this personally is I go to rotate the phone, and if it doesn't rotate, I go, oh, do you have your phone in orientation lock? I swipe down, they answer me or whatever, and I just turn it off orientation lock, swipe up, and then rotate. Especially if you're doing one of the tricks where it really is justified, it's totally fine you just turning it off. It's not really a big deal.
Basically, as long as you turn in the phone horizontal itself is justified, then by extension, it's justified that you would need to turn off auto lock to do that.
But even that, I'd go as far as saying, for me, I don't think it's enough of a thing that spectators will care. It's like everybody uses things in different ways. If you go on someone's laptop and they don't have reverse scroll turned on, it feels weird to you. It's the same kind of thing for me. It's like if I use someone's phone and they don't have orientation lock, I just want to turn it off. So yeah, you just swipe, turn it off. Don't make it a big moment. They won't make it a big moment. It's never going to be registered as like this. But you turned off my orientation lock so that you could show me something landscape. It's just a non-issue.
Yeah. And if you want to check whether they have it on, so you don't have to wait until the moment, you can also just you're drawing something, let me get the brightness up. This was something we talked about Magic Junior yesterday, and good little note, if you want to just check whether it's on or not, you can just mess with the brightness and do that in full view, and then you'll see, is it on, is it not? You'll know where you're heading.
Yeah, personally, I prefer not to touch the phone in this moment. Something quite nice about not having the phone from them. Cool. Another note that I mentioned before, but worth kind of highlighting here, is that sometimes it might just be better for you to grab your own phone and show them what you want them to do. That can be easier than explaining, do this, navigate here, do that. You can just go, actually, could you go there, delete the note like that, then go back, find the deleted, delete, etc. So that's another thing. You can use your own phone as a visual aid.
Things to watch out for. There's no particular order here. We're just
just bam.
Something to watch out for. We talked about this earlier, but in case you didn't watch that one, basically, in certain cases, if it's a privacy-related app or Apple has privacy settings enabled, it might sort of not blur out, but dim. It would just turn that screen grab dark. For example, on Safari, if you notice that the browser is in private on Safari, then the peak won't work. So you just have to make sure it's on the normal one. Same goes like, it's kind of weird. I don't know why it works for the photos, but it doesn't work for the camera. But if you're trying to do this using the native camera app on iPhone, then when you swipe up, you'll see that that is blacked out. Maybe again, some sort of privacy thing, although they don't do it for photos, which, whatever. But just be aware of that, basically. There are a couple of cases like that.
Yeah, it's kind of, just off the back of that, in general, it's good to check the kind of tricks that you want to perform. Just go through them and see if anything pops up. But really, it's a bit of a non-issue. And if something goes wrong, you can just bounce to a different effect. Let's try something else. And then you can go and use the same method, or you can do skip track or whatever, and it's not really an issue.
Yeah. I think, since we're talking about end notes, things to watch out for, this trick is so incredibly easy. There's rarely going to be situations where it doesn't work, but I think a couple of things you want to watch out for, because they will sort of mess up the method just based on the mechanics of it. If the spectator exits or minimizes the app, goes back on the app, and then they minimize it again before you have a chance to do your landscape peek, obviously that's going to reset the screen grab. That's going to reset what you're seeing, and it just won't work. And so you just have to basically make sure they don't do that. And I think that just means you don't, I don't know the best way of not having them do that, but just staying kind of actively involved. And like, if you should also be able to see if they do that, right?
I think clear instructions are helpful. To me, I think that in the same way that I could check the person's phone to see if orientation lock is already on, that has a cost and it has a benefit. For me, I prefer just doing it and not over
telling them what to do.
If I'm too precise with the instructions, I feel like that makes it feel weird. So I'd rather just do it. And if that happens, it's gone wrong, and I do a different trick.
Rather the other 99% of performances feel stronger because you don't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're doing this in a setting which is a bit more high stakes, then maybe you do want to be quite precise with your instructions. Something that I will mention is that you should avoid, not to like call you out, but you should avoid using the word exit the app, because that could imply that they actually swipe up to get rid of it. So you just go, could you just minimize the app? Is key.
Yeah.
But really, I wouldn't.
And of course, if you're demoing as well, like in the situation that you're demoing, it's very obvious.
Yeah, if you want to, exactly. If you want to demo that, I personally, I don't really worry about going minimize the app, but don't exit it or anything. I feel like it's over-explaining. Most spectators are going to process and understand what you're saying, and in the rare cases that they don't, then you can bounce into something else or do some out.
Yeah, but just be aware. I guess those are the three cases. One, if they exit and double exit. Two, if they exit, go back, and then sneak an extra exit in there. Maybe they're checking their text or whatever. Or three, if they just don't exit in the first place. I keep saying exit. If they don't minimize in the first place, just somehow they don't understand you. I feel like that one's quite rare, but it's possible. Yeah. But as Stephen's saying, I think that never really happens. If you want to make sure it doesn't happen, you can be very explicit. Yeah. But I think what you're saying is true, which is the trade-off. Like, it's just, you take the 99.9% of performances where you don't have to sort of hold their hand because it's just better. And if that ever happens, it happens. And what are you going to do? Magic is magic. It happens.
Especially with something like mind reading, where it's not supposed to look like it's this incredible exact thing which you get 100%. We chuck in false, errors all the time. Yeah. So I think it's basically a bit of a non-issue in my personal opinion. In the same way that if you're doing a card trick and the spectator has to shuffle in a certain way and then they riffle shuffle, it happens.
We had one more thing I guess we wanted to share. This is something Antonio mentioned, which is we've come up with all these justifications for why you might want to turn the phone horizontal in a motivated way. But if you just can't be bothered with any of that, here's just a really simple, almost laughably simple way of doing it. If let's say we've just done the trick or we're in the middle of the trick and I say, okay, can I actually borrow your phone? There we go. And we sort of just force it based on how we're taking it.
Yeah, they'll just adjust because of your tiny little hand shape. Yeah. The other thing is we'll do the same thing. Hold the thing. You go, oh, can I have the phone back? A lot of the time, it's going to go in like this kind of angle or something if you're in there. These are all really nice kind of creative different solutions, and it's cool that these options exist because different performers are going to have different styles, different things are going to work for you, different tricks you might feel you want a thing, different thing. And if you're going to repeat this effect or do two different effects from this collection back to back, then maybe you do want to switch out what your explanation is. Yeah. A couple other things to bear in mind that you might be wondering or thinking about. The first thing is that a lot of these things seem to be features in how the iOS operates for phones, not all phones, we'll get to that in a second, as opposed to bugs. When I first came up with the skip track principle, it was before you could even minimize apps. And the way that you got the peak is when you loaded up the app, for a split second, the track would show up just before it went to the other, like a tiny micro peak is what you got. And then when they came out with the app minimization and I realized it worked with that, I was like, this is amazing. You get loads of time on the peak. And ever since then, I was worried that they would update it, but it doesn't seem like this is going to go away anytime soon. And recently, didn't you get information about how...
Yeah. Well, when we were talking to Antonio, so obviously this is a bit secondhand, but Antonio performs this at the Apple Store.
Yeah.
So he will go to the Apple Store, he'll perform this, and he just has quite an intricate understanding of why Apple does this, and so potentially I'll ask him to send up his thoughts and we can put them in a little thing. But as far as when we discussed about it, this is something that's intentional. This has been the case, as Stephen says, from the beginning. This is something that you can't accidentally have this feature happen. This is something that Apple purposely created their software so that it worked like this. There is a utility to it and there's a function to it. We don't necessarily see that function because we're using it for a different reason, but the fact that it seems to be there for a reason gives us confidence that it will continue to be there.
The other thing that's worth bearing in mind is that this works with different phones, but we're not giving a complete set of what those phones are. This is probably one of those things that basically we know how the iPhone situation is working. It seems pretty reliable, but other phones, they maybe change things a little bit more often, and we don't want to make guarantees about different phones. So it does work on other phones, but it's probably best you just experimenting, if you don't use an iPhone, what phone that you use, and seeing. Most of the time, because it's the most popular phone, certainly in the UK and the US, it's very easy to just do this based off someone having an iPhone. And then if you're doing this on stage, you could go, who doesn't mind actually hold up your phone if you've brought your phone with you. That should be all of you, but hold up your phone if you're okay coming on stage. Actually, would you mind? And then you just spot the person with the iPhone and you bring them on stage. For me, it's pretty easy. Honestly, a lot of the time, I'll just go, do you use an iPhone? To the person if I don't see their phone. And then if they do, I'll go into the effect either then or I'll leave it a few beats. Once again, by the time you've done this effect, they're not going to be thinking it's something to do with the phone because of all the other elements of this trick which make it deceptive. So I don't really mind going, oh, do you use an iPhone? Oh, do you use Spotify? It doesn't really seem to be a non-issue. And the other justification you can have, do you use an iPhone? Or like any phone's fine, but it'll be easier for me to work. You know, it's like this kind of thing. My whole philosophy regarding this whole trick and the collection of tricks is I don't like over-explaining any of it. If there's something that I need, I just go, who has an iPhone? Okay, great. And then I go into it. And I never think that it ever gets to the point where they go, well, he required an iPhone. And especially if you're like, who's got a phone? Preferably an iPhone, but it doesn't really matter what. And then if I do get handed a different phone and it doesn't work, as in I know through checking, then I'll just use it for a prediction or something, and I'll go into an equivocate routine and use that to write down the thing. It's up to you how you approach it. But in general, iPhones, super reliable for this stuff. Other phones, results may vary. We'll maybe include a list. We should include a list.
At some point, hopefully, there will be a list. But I think that's mostly it for troubleshooting. Obviously, if we think of more things, we will not hesitate to put them in as resource, whether it's in the Facebook group or it's just like a PDF or what have you. We will definitely update you with any further thoughts or anything other people send in. Probably the last note we want to leave it on is just this is our contribution, but we think, as we said in the beginning, there's so much you can do with this. Really excited to see what you can do with it, the creative presentations, just the fun ways you can run with this. There's probably a lot more we haven't talked about. There was a couple half-baked ideas we had that we can really turn into full ideas for this project. But, you know, we talked about stuff like, you know, if you're on YouTube or any kind of video watching platform, it makes sense to turn the phone horizontal to watch this and, you know, swipe up, and maybe then you go back, you choose a different video, and then you're like, oh, from this to this and whatever. Maybe
you can do the timestamp as well. Go on a video, pick the time spot, and then you can tell them what they were seeing, what the timestamp is, etc. Delete from the history if you want to go all that through those things. Or messaging. This is a nice little one. Maybe you go on your iMessage. Oh, just think of someone you'd like to send a text to. Maybe write that text out, but actually don't send it. Delete it. Get rid of it. Think of a different text. Delete that one. Whatever. Use your process. You go back, and then you can just tell them whatever it was they were going to send to a friend, which also can be a nice little effect. And you know, maybe there's a nice little ending there where you're like, oh, think of something nice, someone you haven't reached out to in a while, but like a nice thing you'd say to them that you haven't said for a while, and in the end of the trick you end up being like, oh, was it this what you were going to say? And then you have them send it, and everybody's happy, and you rekindle some relationships. Could be cool. But basically the sky's the limit with this effect in essence. Go through the apps that you use, and think, just rotate them. Do they have a mode where they can be put into landscape? There are certain apps that don't, which is kind of annoying, and those are the apps that you can't really do this trick with. But everything else is pretty much fair game and will work. That's pretty much it. Huge thanks to Antonio for essentially taking this idea further than I had taken it, and essentially unlocking a ton of incredible mentalism effects.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out Antonio, shout out Stephen.
That pretty much concludes this set of tutorials. I think you're absolutely going to love working with this principle. Think about it from a card trick perspective. This is the equivalent of a spectator bringing their own deck of cards, being over in the corner, picking a card, putting it back in, shuffling, and only then handing you the deck. That is what you have right now, but with a phone, and everybody carries phones. It's just a great anytime, anywhere effect that you can customize in the moment based off the spectator's interests. Yeah, thanks so much for supporting this project and independent magical creations. We really appreciate it.
Enjoy, and we will hopefully see you in the next project.